Hello folks, it's A Automotive Reviews. And today we're back with the 2021 Ford Bronco. And we're going to talk about the disadvantages of the Bronco independent front suspension versus the Wrangler solid axle. We got this is some juicy subject, folks. Let's get into this. Let's get to that let's get to that Jeep first. We're going to be hopping through the pics here too. Now, there are some distinct advantages of the solid front axle for off-roading. Now, the Jeep axle shafts are housed inside of a big, strong steel tube, protected against elements, whereas the Bronco axle are exposed. Now, what more? Whereas the Jeep utilizes universal joints to allow for smooth power delivery to wheel that's turning and bouncing over the terrain. The Bronco uses the CV joints, and man oh man, I have nightmares about CV joints. Every time I used to take my car to this shop, it was always those CV joints had to be replaced, and it ended up costing me anywhere from $150 to $200. But oh boy, but Ford is taking this stuff to the test, and we know that perhaps they made them strong enough where they have some kind of protection. Now, among hardcore off-road enthusiasts, many prefer the universal joints, as they don't have rubber boots that can tear and compromise bearings. And they can be easily replaced on a trail using nothing more than a big rock and a few sockets. That makes a hell of a difference. Let's dive into this, folks. Now, here's a look at the one of the Bronco's exposed front CV axles in the boots. Take a look at this. We can see even more. We can see the exposure here, exposed rubber CV axle boots here. And we just wonder, when you hit those rocks, about its protection. Let's go back and flick to the picture of the Bronco doing a rock crawl, and then we'll come back to this and we'll just take a look at it. Matter of fact, we'll look at this concept right here. You see they got the bash plate here and the bash plate protection. This is, of course, is a concept. We'll look at this one because it just seems like it was a good view of it. Yeah, here it is, and of course this is just protecting it. It just depends where you are in the rocks and how the exposure will be. I mean, there is some protection somewhat. I mean, I don't think I would be too scared to go off-roading and thinking about the protection of the CV joints. We're going to get back to all of these pics in a little bit as we go over some of the great topics regarding this beautiful 2021 Bronco. Now, by contrast, the only exposed part of the Jeep Wrangler from the axle shafts are the beefy universal joints connecting the yokes on the axle shaft. Now, but we look here, it looks like, nothing too much to be super worried about. Knowing that all the durability testing and everything that they put the Bronco through. And as you can see here, it does look like it has you have this big control arm here. And I think there's a plate that goes, I don't know. Doesn't look like it. If it was, there would be one here, but there is not. So there's a lot of exposure, and we'll get into a little bit more, and we'll look for the universal pick with the Bronco. We're gonna be jumping through picks, so just hang with me and appreciate some of the picks. This is what we're gonna talk about now: the universal joint. Just wanted you guys to take a look at that. So the Jeep Wrangler front axle shafts are the beefy universal joints connecting the yokes on the axle shafts. And of course, when they asked Ford about the durability and disadvantages of the independent front suspension compared with the solid front axle, Ford made it clear that it has gone to great lengths to test the Bronco's strength. Now, every Bronco goes through rigorous testing to ensure long-term off-road performance and durability. Bronco leverages Ford built tough durability and performance testing and takes it further off-road with the built wild extreme durability testing in the harshest environments, including trails from the King of Hammer off-road competition. Now, other than the durability, again, it's hard to beat the durability of the giant tubes, though. So the Jeep beats of the Bronco on that avenue. But I bet the Ford Bronco forged aluminum lower A-arms is tough enough to withstand, a beating. Now, another advantage of a solid axle is articulation. And Ford has no problem admitting that, the articulation. Now, versus a Rubicon with the bar disconnected, compared to the Badlands with the bar disconnected, we're not going to be as high, as a score as the Jeep. And that's what the engineer named Jamie Grew says with Ford. Now, he's a vehicle engineer manager for the Bronco, about the Bronco ramp travel index versus the Jeep Wrangler. Now, ramp travel index is an indication of the vehicle's suspension articulation capabilities. And Ford raced the Bronco at about 700 on the Badland trim, and then in the two-door guys and 620 for the four-door Badlands. Now, Jeep, and we'll go back to the picture of the Jeep right quick, and we'll see. I'm thinking I'm looking for this. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. Now, Jeep doesn't publish the ramp travel index score, though. Four-wheelers tested a JL last year and measured 693 on the four-door. Now, both tests were done at 20-degree ramps, comparing the ramp travel index scores to achieve the different equipment is unadvisable, but this comparison may be a decent guess to the delta and the flex between the vehicles. We won't be as good as the direct competitor, but Ford is saying that we're better than anything else in the market, other than the specific one. Grooves admitted. Jeep is awesome, folks. I think if you're gonna just be off-road, basically, say 90% of the time, and the Jeep is everything. I think it's on the off-road capabilities, and with those steel tubes, it just it puts it above the Bronco. But if you want something that's you can go to work, do what you got to do, and still go off-road, the Bronco is an all-around competitor, all-around winner. Now, speaking of the Bronco Flex, the vehicle comes with the front hydraulic sway bar disconnect feature. And let's get a look at that, the front sway bar disconnect feature right quick. And we will pop to that picture in a second. I love looking at this picture. And let's get to that sway bar disconnect. There that baby is. Okay. Now, speaking of the Bronco Flex, the vehicle comes with that front hydraulic sway bar disconnect feature. And that's what we see here. Ford did something to the rear sway bar to improve articulation as well. Now, Ford refers to it as the semi-active, saying it can disconnect and reconnect, even when the vehicle is flexing. A Ford representative described the semi-active system mode of operation in the email writing. The bar disconnect once you enter rock crawl mode, or if you press the bar and disconnect button to activate it manually, the bar will be disconnected all the time the vehicle is below the speed threshold, which is 20 miles per hour. It will automatically disconnect and reconnect as the vehicle passes below, and above the threshold it will reconnect. So that is just awesome. It'll disconnect when you get above the threshold, and it'll reconnect when you're below the threshold where you're doing some rock crawling. Now, this is all controlled hydraulically, thus it will not block when it's under load. So that is just straight up awesome, folks. Ford is, I'm sure, is going to bring out more information about this particular feature on the Ford Bronco, on the internal mechanical intricacies of the hydraulic stabilizer bar disconnect, and how it differs from the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon electronic sway bar disconnect. Let's go back and let's look at theirs. Now, as you can see, even by looking at the picture, you know it's not as good as the Ford Bronco, just when you just take a look at it, but it looks like it can get the job done. And how it differs from the Jeep Wrangler, the Rubicon electronic sway bar disconnect, at least on the previous generation, JK, is known to be fraught with issues. So it's got many issues. I'm not going to go into the issues because we would get lost in the mix. And it can only be disconnected and reconnected on the flat ground. So you can't do it on the fly. So if you're wondering how the Jeep sway bar disconnect works, you can look into that even further and just go ahead and Google it and take a look at that. Now, there's an electric motor that moves a collar against a spring, disconnecting in two sections of the sway bar, as you can see, and it's all done, of course, in here by that particular motor. Now, another advantage of the solid axle outside articulation and theoretically durability is how easy they are to lift. Now, people in the off-road scene love to lift their vehicles and slap on bigger tires, and that's incredibly easy with the solid axle, since the differential always remains on the same axis as the wheels with independent suspension. Installing taller springs moves the wheels down relatively to the frame where the diff is mounted. Now, a lot of people, they put their SUVs up high and it's just blind the living daylights out of you when you're driving, and I think people sometimes get off on that. You know, they have the light bars, the LED bars on, blinding you, and they know what they're doing. I just wish people weren't so rude, but I just had to give a shout out. You know, please don't do it for that reason. Do it for adventure and the fun, and always respect the other people out there, even when you're out there in the wild and out there having fun. Try to keep the wild, and don't go in there messing up, plants and everything else. Let's just stay clean. Let's just be smart. Now, what this means as far as lifting the vehicles is that the angle of the half shaft, which is the CV axles, from the differential to the wheel hub gets steeper. And this can cause issues when it comes to CV joint longevity, and that just brings nightmares, because I know when you fix it, it's like $150 to $200 for each axle when you do have to fix that rubber boot. Now, Ford admits that a solid axle offers advantages when it comes to installing lifts in the front, with the independent front suspension. Basically, you can either just do the retrim, the ride height adjustment, which folks do with the F-Series and the Raptor. The engineer added this. It says, and then when the engineer was asked by the journalists, he answered, people are going to put taller springs in and sacrifice a bit rebound travel to get a bit more of a heightened clearance. This could allow them to go up next tire size and get the look that they want, especially if people like to do off-road mudding. I'm sure people are going to be out there competing against each other and, having a hell of a fun, a heck of a lot of fun. And this is what we buy these SUVs for. And I know that will be off the chain. Let's just take a look at this Jeep and see the size, just how it looks. It actually looks quite attractive, sitting high like that. It's awesome, folks. And this is why people do lift kits. But for those who don't want to sacrifice the rebound travel, or who want even more lift, the next step is to install the longer control arms. And the next step after that is putting longer arms on the truck with, again, kind of think of it like the Raptor versus the standard F-Series. Ways of handling the ride, height increase, and the tire package increase. And you got partners that working within the aftermarkets where, Ford has their partners, and they're going to be trying to take advantage of that market too, because there's a lot of people that have their Jeeps up high. Now the point there is to keep the CV joint angle close to the same as stock. If the CV joints maintain common angles, but you go wider, and in geometry you get more height and travel. So there's a big market there, and that'll get you far than the guys, and that's what the people really want. And then if they want more, they do the portal axles, which allow the end of the axle shaft to be offset, sitting higher than the center of the wheels. This is what you see the AMG G-Wagons do, as they patrol and Rodeo Drive in different places. Those beautiful, expensive SUVs. And that the common work person really can't afford, but that's what they do, and it makes it look really, really nice. You guys, this is A Automotive Reviews, and this is just a quick look at the advantages of the suspension system in the Bronco, above that of the awesome Jeep Wrangler, and we do have the awesome Bronco as well. The disadvantages of the Bronco independent front suspension versus the Wrangler solid axle. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, like, share, and subscribe, and stay healthy, and thumbs up, guys. Take care. Enjoy.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more interesting videos.